Part 49. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 481. The member of the Hope Base who came to tell the rules to these survivors was only a second-order evolved person. However, at this moment, he was held in the hands of the awakened person, but he was unafraid and looked at the awakened person coldly. Okay. If you don't believe it, then I will kill you now. The awakened person had a ferocious smile on his face, and raised his other hand to pat the second-level evolved person's head. Bang, a dull gunshot sounded, and then the awakened man's head exploded and disappeared instantly, leaving only a headless corpse with blood spurting out from his cavity. After shaking a few times, he fell backwards and fell to the ground, motionless. Regarding the death of the awakened person, the second-order evolved person was not surprised. He arranged his clothes calmly, then looked at the stunned survivors in front of him, and said with cold eyes, "I hope the rules of the base have been changed. I have told you, if you are willing to abide by it, stay, and if you think it is too harsh, leave. We will not force anyone, but if there is trouble here, this person will be a role model." Huh. Awakened people can be majestic in other places, but in the Hope Base, it is best to stay quiet. No matter who wants to eat, just work. If you want to be a master, go ahead and don't send me away. After saying that, the second-level enhancer sneered, turned around and left here, leaving the group of survivors here staring at each other. However, after turning around, this second-level evolver's originally cold face twitched a few times, and he cursed secretly in his heart, "Why don't you use a less powerful gun to kill people? Do you have to use serious injury? It hurts. Damn me." Turn out to be the ones who just killed the awakened one were the Hope Legion soldiers who were ambushing in the Hope Base. Although they did not pass the test of Instructor Li Yingning, they could not become soldiers of the main battle legion, the Guardian Legion. But after all, they have also received formal training, especially since most of them are serving soldiers or veterans. After the second drastic change, basically all of them became evolutionaries. Now the Hope Corps is responsible for the entire internal defense and security of the Hope Base. Their capabilities are similar to those of the police or armed police before the end of the world. This living point is naturally alerted by the Hope Warriors, especially since these people have just arrived at the Hope Base, and there are many awakened people among them who are very strong. Therefore, the number of Hope Warriors around here is even greater than others. There are several times more places. I just saw these survivors actually dare to attack their own people. The Hope Warrior who had been watching from a distance was naturally not polite and shot this guy in the head without asking the reason. This Hope Warrior is using a heavy sniper rifle, seriously injured. As an evolutionist, there is no problem with using this heavy sniper rifle that few people dared to use before the end of the world. Moreover, the person next to the target is also an evolutionist, so there is no need. Worried that he was injured by the airflow from the bullet. However, when the bullet passed over the face of the second-level enhancer and hit the awakened person's head, the strong airflow caused pain on the second-level evolver's face, but there were so many in front of him. Survivor, that's why the second-level enhancer didn't show up. After the members of the Hope Base left, the survivors looked at each other, and no one dared to speak. After a long time, an awakened person said with some concern, "This is such a domineering base of hope. I can't say you are overbearing." Another awakened person wearing glasses shook his head and said, "After all, people have made it very clear that if you want to eat, you have to work. In fact, it is right. Why should they keep us in vain? But we are awakened ones. Don't they need our protection?" A bald awakened person was somewhat dissatisfied. "Humph. Didn't you hear what I said? The awakened ones had better stay quiet here." Another awakened person snorted coldly, "If I don't say anything else, let's just talk about the devourer who brought us back. How dare you follow me? Will he take action?" You can even conquer others by devouring them. Why are you, an awakened person, so arrogant? Humph. They are just such a devourer. Looking at the other people, they are almost the same as us at best, the bald head said sadly. Let me tell you. Are you really willing to stay here? Go farm and move bricks in exchange for a bite of food every day. At this time, an awakened person who looked to be in his 50s stood up and asked. Otherwise, what should I do? This place is far away from the camp where I was captured. Moreover, my camp has been occupied by devourers. I have no home at all. At least it looks safe here, wearing glasses said. Well, just farm the land. I used to be a farmer. As long as I can survive, there are so many devourers outside. I won't go out to get into trouble. If you are caught, it will be worse than death, among the crowd. Someone else said. Yeah. That's right. There are all devourers outside, and I won't leave. I won't leave either. It's better to live than die. It's better to farm. Why can't you think about it? In the past, you were fighting zombies, and you were still a little bit confident. But now you are fighting devourers. If you are not careful, you will be transformed into half human, half ghost by them. Think about it. It's scary to think about it. You're right. Just stay here. The survivors were talking a lot and seemed to have accepted the arrangements of the Hope Base. Everyone. Be quiet. I have something to say. At this time, a voice sounded. Everyone looked at him and found that it was a man with a hat on his head and a pair of sunglasses on his nose, covering most of his face. If this person is brought back by someone else, he will definitely be required to remove all his clothes and reveal his true face, because it is necessary to prevent the devourer from sneaking in, but these people were brought by number 7, and it is impossible for the devourer to escape. His induction was mixed into the Hope Base. Moreover, Lu Feng had actually recognized this person before as Hu Yahuan, but because Lu Feng didn't know what to do with this Hu Yahuan, he didn't make any announcement and just told Duan Lei. Seeing everyone looking at him, Hu Yahuan sighed, and then said, My name is Hu Yahuan, actually. I have stayed at the Hope Base before, but when the thick fog came, I didn't protect myself, the farm I was in charge of, so I left here. After I left, I found another camp. Because I was an evolver, that camp took me in. However, later, the devourer came and my camp was gone, so I followed everyone here. Hu Yahuan. Have you stayed at Hope Base? Then tell us quickly, how is Hope Base? Is it suitable for us to stay? Some survivors asked quickly. Is it suitable? Hu Yahuan hesitated. Actually, the Hope Base is quite good. You should have seen the geographical location here. Apart from the sea, the only way to enter the Hope Base is the Black Dragon Bridge road, and the bridge has also been renovated. It can be said that in terms of safety, they have done a good job here. I know that everyone may feel that the most uncomfortable thing about staying here is that as awakened people, we have to work with those strengthened people to get food. After all, we awakened people should be above us. Only the enhanced ones or ordinary people under our protection should do those rough jobs, right? I have a method, what do you think? It allows everyone to stay here and live a safe life without having to work. Forget it. Just do some work. After hearing Hu Yahuan's words, the man with eyes was the first to object. There is no free lunch in the world, and doing some work is nothing. It is better than being captured by the devourer. More, it's better not to cause trouble. After all, they were the ones who rescued us. We can't be ungrateful and cause trouble here instead. Although he didn't know Hu Yahuan's method, he knew it with his fingernails. It would definitely not be something that the Hope Base would be happy with, so the man with glasses didn't plan to get involved. Some of the other survivors supported the bespectacled man's statement and nodded. Indeed, without Wang Feng, they would still be trapped in that spaceship, waiting to be eaten by the devourer. Even if they were working now, at least safety is guaranteed to a certain extent. But there were also some people who were very interested in what Hu Yahuan said. The bald man shouted to these people, "Don't shout. Let Hu Yahuan finish what he said and see what happens before making a decision." Haha. Do you think they really just let us work in the Hope Base? If that's the case, I'll admit it, Hu Yahuan said. They, the evolved ones, may be able to, but we, the awakened ones, will still have to be incorporated into the battle sequence later on to help them fight. Moreover, we are not staying here to defend, but we have to go out to search for supplies and survive. Maybe it was Hu Yahuan's good luck that he has now become an awakened person. Moreover, due to his previous actions, Hu Yahuan is now very uneasy. He doesn't know that Lu Feng has discovered him, but he knows that as long as he remains in Hope Base, it will be discovered soon. All the people on the farm that he was responsible for were dead, and only he was left. If people at the base found him, they would never let him stay here even if they didn't kill him immediately, so, Hu Yahuan must find a way to continue to stay in the Hope Base. Because the outside is very dangerous now, and the arrival of the Devourer has made the world even more chaotic than when the end of the world just started. Hu Yahuan doesn't want to die, he wants to live well. It just so happens that the death of the awakened one before, Hu Yahuan saw an opportunity to tie these survivors to himself. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 482. Hearing Hu Yahuan's words, the other survivors became quiet. Just now, they were depressed that they had to move bricks and farm with the strengthened ones, but now they heard that they, the awakened ones, would be dragged out in the future. Fighting against the Devourer, I couldn't help but feel chills in my heart. They have all seen the horror of the Devourer, and the survivors who stayed here did not see Wang Feng showing off his power after the commander of the Devourer returned. Under the heavy siege of the Devourer, he went crazy. Scenes of carnage. As for what Wang Feng said before, all the Devourers in the headquarters were killed by him. They didn't see it, so naturally they didn't have that kind of visual impact. Therefore, for them, the Devourers were still invincible. If he encountered the Devourer, it would be the same as dying. Especially the Devourer's method of murdering people. Anyone who sees a young and handsome young man before suddenly turning into an old man with wrinkles on his face will feel extremely horrified. When fighting the enemy, if you first have fear of the enemy in your heart, then there is no need to fight, and you will definitely lose. If you meet on a narrow road, the brave will win. If you don't even have the courage to fight, how can you win? Seeing the looks in the eyes of these survivors, Hu Yahuan knew that his words had an effect, and he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If he could not persuade these people to move, he would have no allies. Once discovered, the best case scenario would probably be he would be kicked out of the Hope Base, and doing so would be no different from death. When he was in Cat City, Hu Yahuan saw Wang Feng and the others, so he slipped away quietly. However, after sneaking out, he discovered that the world was so vast that there was no room for him. The whole world was full of people. There are dangers everywhere. So, after seeing number 7 and the others, Hu Yahuan got into the team. When he knew that they were going to the Hope Base, Hu Yahuan did not choose to leave, because he knew that leaving alone would be no different from dying. But Hu Yahuan also knew that staying at the Hope Base was not a long-term solution. Once discovered, he would still be unable to stay here. If Wang Feng and the others didn't kill him immediately, it would be a loss of face. I said. I was in the Hope Base before, but then he asked me to join the army. Later, during a battle, our team was wiped out, and I was the only one who escaped. I was afraid that they would look for me. If it's troublesome, I won't dare to come back. Hu Yahuan fabricated a false story casually, but he did not dare to tell the truth. The whole army was wiped out, an awakened person said with some suspicion. They are so safe here, How could the whole army be wiped out? The zombies shouldn't be able to attack that bridge, right? When the other survivors heard this, they also began to look at Hu Yahuan with suspicion. Hu Yahuan pretended to be helpless and shook his head. Oh. Of course it would be no problem if they were to guard here, but they would organize troops to raid those big cities outside to collect materials left over from before the end of the world. Otherwise, why would this hope base be built? So good. And haven't you noticed? The population here is extremely large. I'm afraid none of you have ever seen that human gathering place after the end of the world. There can be so many people, right? This is their strategy. Organize the experts and search outside. Bring them all back here, whether they are people or materials. All the materials will be used to build this base. People, the strong ones will be put into the army, and the weak ones will be put into the army. Help them farm, and they will become stronger and stronger. I can see that. This hope base is really well built. The man with glasses nodded in agreement, but then said, but this is a good thing? This way more people can come here, and we, as the people here, as a member, you should put in some effort, right? That's because you don't understand the truth. Hu Yahuan waved his hand at him. You don't understand that they have divided the members of this hope base into different levels. The highest level is the core personnel, that is, those members of their hope base. The founders, these people stay in that central clubhouse, their headquarters, all day long. Those people are quite safe. They have food and drink, don't have to work, and are not in danger. The next level is the Guardian Legion. They also followed these people at first, then the Hope Legion, and then they became full members. We are peripheral members, and now we are peripheral members. Do the most tiring work, do the most dangerous things, and get the least food. They don't care about our life or death. They absorb a large number of survivors just to organize us into an army and then go out to collect resources. In fact, to put it bluntly, it's just to trade our lives for what they need. Anyway, if we die, they can still find more survivors. I hope the base is built so well. I don't know how many appointments were used in exchange for it. Hu Yahuan looked around and sighed, although he had been slandering Hope Base, but when he returned to Hope Base this time, he really didn't believe his eyes. He didn't expect that the Hope Base would develop so quickly in such a short period of time. He couldn't help but sigh to himself that he was unlucky. There were so many farms at that time, but his own farm was attacked, causing him to have to flee here. Otherwise, now, I don't have to work so hard to instigate these people to help me fight to stay here. Hu Yahuan now has a plan in mind. If it goes smoothly, the ideal result is that he can live with these survivors in Heilong City, so that he can not only accept the protection of the Guardian Base, but also be protected from the Hope Base. Control. Even if he fails to achieve his goal in the end, the worst result is that the survivors are driven out of here together. It is better than him being driven out alone, right? Moreover, Hu Yahuan has already thought about where he will stay after being kicked out. It was the underground fortress in Juking City. Although Hu Yahuan did not participate in that battle, he learned about the existence of that underground fortress from other people. According to his guess, as long as they did not cause too much trouble, they would be driven away. If we go, we may still get some food. Of course, this requires recruiting some survivors from the Hope Base. Just these people will definitely get nothing, but the first step now is to convince these people here before proceeding to the next step. In fact, Hu Yahuan can accept the management of the Hope Base. He also knows that the Hope Base never forces anyone. As long as you don't make mistakes, you can do whatever you want. Just like before, as an evolutionist, he would rather not fight. When we went to see the small farm, Wang Feng and the others never said anything. But if he said this, these people would naturally not cooperate with him in implementing his plan, so he could only make up some lies to tie these people to himself. But, Didn't that person just talk about the rules of Hope Base? It didn't say that awakened people must participate in the battle. It also said that we can choose our own jobs in exchange for food. They shouldn't say that, right? The man with glasses questioned again. Of course, because we have just arrived here, and the most important thing is that we have a large number of people, more than 30,000 people, and our number of awakened people is not much less than them. They are afraid that we will not agreed. Let's just make trouble, so I'll say something nice first. Huyahuan patiently explained to the man with glasses. He knew that he could only convince them before his plan could proceed. Therefore, although the man with glasses had many problems, Huyahuan still showed no trace of impatience. And since he has been away from the Hope Base for a while, he does not know the specific strength of the Hope Base now. After all, at that time, the second drastic change had just come, and Wang Feng had not returned yet, so he did not even know that Wang Feng had become an awakener. No. However, according to his speculation, there should be many people in the Guardian Legion who have become awakened. After all, when he left, there were 2,000 to 3,000 people in the Guardian Legion who were at the same level as him and were all evolvers. For this elite legion, they have every reason to believe that they can all become awakened ones, and there is no reason for them not to advance. But after all, there are only 2,000 to 3,000 people, not many more than the awakened people here. After all, the awakened people here are gathered from all over the world. Although it is not all, but it should be the majority. If Huyahuan could know the number of awakened people in the current Guardian Legion, he would probably cancel his plan and resign himself to fate. 5 figures of awakened people were definitely not something he could subvert. It's a pity that Huyahuan didn't know, so he continued to work hard to convince these survivors. Just watch. In less than a week, they will disperse us to various places and will not let us live together, because they are afraid that we will stick together in a group, and then they will gradually choose the strongest among us. Those who want to join the army have always hoped that the base will use this method. Then won't we become cannon fodder? NND. I will never do it, Baldhead said angrily. The worst I can do is leave here. I would rather go out and be caught by the devourer than take advantage of them in vain. What are you talking about? The man with glasses frowned. Even if they took advantage of us, after all, they saved us first, and as awakened people, it's okay to go out to search for supplies. Why don't we go out and let those enhanced go out and fight the devourer? The bald man was unhappy when he heard this. What's wrong with the enhancers? In front of those monsters that can eat people, is there any difference between the enhancers and the awakened ones? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 483. After hearing the words of the bald head, the survivors nodded in agreement. They had all fought against the devourer more or less. Of course they knew that in front of the devourer, there was basically no difference between the awakened and the evolved or enhanced. Anyway, it can't hurt those monsters, but as long as it is touched by the devourer's hands or even limbs, there is only one word: death. Don't argue for now, listen to what I have to say, Huyahuan quickly advised. He didn't want to start internal strife on his side before he went to negotiate with the Hope Base. I don't want to cause trouble with them. We just want a commitment. On the surface, this base is at least relatively reasonable. After all, there are so many people. If they behave too arrogantly, other people will not remain silent. As long as we make the matter a little bigger and the demands are not too excessive, then they should be able to agree. They have saved us, but we are just fighting for a little bit of the power we deserve, and we are not trying to rob them of their Hope Base. Okay. Can you tell me what we should do first? Baldhead looked at Huyahuan and said. This is the jurisdiction of Heilong City. The place where we are now is called Ganlin County, which is also the headquarters of the Hope Base. Because Heilong City is very close to Jianguan Town, they are worried that there will be marine mutants rushing up there, so they chose here. Hu Yahuan began to talk about his plan. In the past, it seemed that their approach might be right, but now, after the heavy fog comes, I feel that the creatures in the ocean should be much safer than those on land. No matter what, the thick fog will not dissolve into the sea. Taking a step back, even the creatures in the sea can absorb the dense fog and be strengthened. They can't be more terrifying than those devourers, right? So we united and told them that we will not join their camp. We just need to live in Heilong City. In this way, we are under their protection and don't have to obey their orders. Isn't it much better than the current situation? At least we don't have to go out to fight. Fighting always involves death, and no one wants to die. After Hu Yahuan's words, everyone nodded. The appearance of the devourer had frightened their courage. To be honest, if they were asked to eliminate zombies, maybe they wouldn't be so afraid, but they would never be so afraid of the devourer in their lives. I want to see those bloody eyes. Will they agree to this? Baldhead asked with a frown. Right? After all, they said they are willing to leave, and they won't force it, said a thin awakened person, but the look on his face clearly didn't look so confident. It shouldn't be a big problem. As long as we act resolutely, it will be fine. No matter what, no one from Heilong City lives there, and the territory here is not theirs. What happened to us? They can't explain it? Come on. Hu Yahuan said in a positive tone, and the number of our awakened ones is not much less than theirs, so they don't dare to make too much trouble with us. After hearing Hu Yahuan's words, these survivors all looked at the headless corpse on the ground and felt that Hu Yahuan's words seemed unreliable. Seeing everyone's gazes, Hu Yahuan quickly explained, "This is to scare the monkeys. Because we haven't reached an agreement yet, no one came forward just now. If we speak out together, they won't dare. In any case, our advanced combat power, if we don't dare to deal with the devourer, why don't we dare to deal with people?" "Haha. What you say is so shameless," the man with eyes said disdainfully. "You don't dare to take action against the enemy, but you have the courage to deal with your own people." Hu Yahuan blushed and said with some embarrassment, "I just want to avoid fighting, especially with those devourers. Besides, their hope base is a little greedy. Obviously the current hope base is already very good. If you stick to it here, even against the devourer, there is still a certain degree of certainty. Have you all seen the tanks and cannons on both sides of the bridge? No matter how powerful the devourers are, how can they survive one shot? It's just that they want more resources, so they let us go out to die. We are doing it for is it wrong to take your own life and fight for some rights you deserve?" At the end, Hu Yahuan seemed to have found his confidence and his voice became louder. "Our own people? Humph. Are you sure they will treat us as our own people?" The bald head glanced at the man with glasses sideways, then looked at Hu Yahuan and asked, "Tell me, when are we going to go talk to them about this?" "I think the sooner the better," Hu Yahuan said. "Of course, the sooner the better. The longer the delay, the better these people will know about the Hope Base. By then, their lies will be self-defeating. I don't think there's a need to be so anxious," the man with glasses looked at Hu Yahuan and said. From Hu Yahuan's anxious expression, the man with glasses seemed to have thought of something and had some doubts. "We're not in a hurry? If we're not in a hurry, what will happen if they separate us? It will be hard for us to make a fuss by ourselves, and we won't be able to make a fuss even if we want to." The bald head gave Hu Yahuan some relief. "Even if we are separated, he will have to live for a few days, right?" the man with glasses said calmly. "I mean, you can't just listen to one person's words. It's getting late today, and we don't know where to apply for a job. How about this? Tomorrow we will each find a job, and then go around this base to learn about this hope base with other people. If it is really like what he said, we will be used as cannon fodder in the future. At that time, it's not too late to make a decision. Now that we have just arrived here, we don't know anything. Just listening to what this guy said, it is a bit too hasty to conclude that such a large base is not suitable for living. I don't want to finally see a safe place. It would be so unfair to be kicked out because of being taken advantage of, and then fall into the hands of the devourer. After hearing what the man with glasses said, some survivors nodded, feeling that what he said made sense. After all, seeing is believing, so it would be better to go for a walk tomorrow, so that you would feel more at ease. Huyahuan couldn't help but feel a little anxious. Everyone outside had listened to the bespectacled man's words, and their plans were about to come to nothing. He hoped that the reputation of the base among the survivors was still quite good, and they would find out the truth as soon as they found someone to get to know them. We can't separate. Huyahuan looked at the man with glasses and said, "It's just because it was too late today that they didn't separate us. If we take the initiative to ask for work, then they will have an excuse to separate our residences. At that time, even if we want to fight for legitimate rights together, it will be too late. We cannot unite together. It is useless for a few people to come to them and ask for explanations. They will directly defeat them individually. But we can't just make trouble in such a big base based on your words, right?" The man with glasses frowned and said, "Besides, those evolved ones may not be willing to follow us. You just said that only we awakened ones will be dragged into the battle order by them. Can't they join us? If they don't join us, there will only be less than 3,000 awakened ones among us, and we can't be called human beings. A lot of strength, right? I estimate that there are only about 3,000 to 4,000 awakened people in this base, which is not much different from us. Besides, they won't really fight us, otherwise they will suffer a lot of losses, and they can't afford it." Huyahuan said quickly. He regretted it now. When he said it just now, he should have included the evolver. "Why do I think they won't suffer a lot of losses?" The man with glasses pointed at the headless corpse on the ground. "As long as there are more snipers like this, there is no need for awakened people, just an enhanced one. They can reach a long distance kill us, not to mention, you just reminded us, they still have tanks and artillery." "That's right. I just saw a hurricane in their base, and there were more than one of them. Even if we were awakened, we couldn't stop the 6-barrel machine guns on it," a middle-aged man with a red face also said, "It seems that he must have been in the military. He actually knows the hurricane, and he also knows that the hurricane has a 6-barreled machine gun." Hearing what they said, even the bald man who supported Huyahuan began to hesitate. Huyahuan was certainly not at ease that he had failed. "Don't worry, we are just going to tell them that we want to leave here. They have no reason to attack us. Besides, as I said just now, we are just asking for it, and don't make it too tense. Why do they want to deal with us? Let's go and ask. If it works, we will do it. If it doesn't work, we will pull it off." "Eh? That's right. I'm just asking for it. If it works, it's best. If not, come back." The bald man suddenly understood and nodded repeatedly. The other survivors also agreed. After all, it would not do any harm to him. "Then it's settled. We will go to the Blue Water Garden together tomorrow to find their leader and tell them our demands." Huyahuan quickly came to a conclusion, fearing that there would be unintended consequences. However, what he was worried about still happened. The man with glasses stretched out his hand and waved it, indicating that it was different from Huyahuan's arrangement. He looked at Huyahuan and said, "Huyahuan, why do I feel that you are very anxious about this matter? Moreover, you have been wearing a hat and sunglasses. It is almost dark. What do you mean by wearing sunglasses? Or are you a big man before the end of the world? Celebrities, are you used to this look? Then, The man in sunglasses turned to the other survivors and said loudly, "Are you stupid? If you can't pull them down yet, can you really pull them down so easily?" Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 484. When the man with glasses said this, he looked at the survivors with a sneer and said, "We are new here. If my guess is correct, all of us who come to this hope base should have nowhere to go. Our original camps have been occupied by the Devourers, otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Now that we finally have a place to stay, you still want to cause trouble." Looking at the size of this hope base, you can tell that they are very powerful and probably don't need people like us. The reason why they take us in is just because we are human beings. That's all. They also said that if you can't accept the rules here, just leave. If we go to make our demands and they drive us away, where will we go? All the survivors looked at each other in confusion. What the man with glasses said did make sense. What should I do if people like me and I asked for their so-called rights in the past and hoped that the base would ignore them and drive them away directly? Everyone, seeing that his plan was about to be ruined, Hu Yahuan said quickly, "Can you listen to what I have to say? After I finish speaking, everyone will consider whether my method is feasible." "Say," the bald man looked at the man with glasses, "don't interrupt. Anyway, this guy has also stayed at the Hope Base. He knows more about this place than we do. If this place is really good, why did he do it in the first place? Want to leave? I think there must be something wrong with this Hope Base." The man with glasses shook his head and stopped talking. Instead, he turned to look at Hu Yahuan. "Everyone. In fact, my ideal is very simple. I just want to live peacefully in this apocalypse. I don't ask for anything else, as long as I live. Isn't this a high request?" This guy with glasses just said that as awakened beings, we should fight. This is true. I also admit that with greater strength comes greater responsibility. Of course, we can fight when necessary, and no one will escape. But the problem is that in this Hope Base, many of the battles they fought were completely unnecessary. Have you seen the situation in this Hope Base now? To be honest, the location here is quite good. As long as the Black Dragon Bridge is closed, there is no way for the Devourer or Lost to break in. The land here is also sufficient, and the food grown can fully feed everyone in this base, but they are not satisfied, and have to go out to collect supplies. In the past, only zombies were enough, but now the Devourer has appeared, and the strength of the Devourer, everyone has seen it, right? Do you think we can fight against that kind of monster? Having said this, Hu Yahuan squatted down, drew the terrain of the Hope Base on the ground, and then said, "This is the Black Dragon Bridge, and this is where we are. This area is basically quite safe. And this is Black Dragon City. As far as I know, they don't have anyone living here. My request is very simple. If you want to join the battle, we won't stop you. You can go out and face those terrifying Devourers. But I don't want to, so I will tell the Hope Base that I want to live in Heilong City. I don't want to fight those Devourers. I have no ambitions, I don't want much power, and I don't want to be a savior. I just want to live. Who of you wants to fight the Devourers, turn into an old man in an instant, and die miserably? You go ahead, I just want to farm and support myself. I don't want to see those kind of monsters again in this life." Hu Yahuan's words spoke to the concerns of almost everyone here. They don't want to see those Devourers again. If they are zombies, no matter how powerful they are, they may have the courage to face them, but Devourers. Thinking of the miserable sight of those who died in the hands of the Devourer, these people couldn't help but shudder. They would rather be torn apart by zombies than become old instantly. That is really terrible. You're right. I don't want to see those monsters anymore. The bald man shuddered and said with a trembling voice. I don't want to either, other survivors also agreed. As for your suspicion, Brother, I can prove it to you. Hu Yahuan looked at the man with glasses and said, although we cannot separate, because once separated, we will be separated forever and there will be no chance to get together again, but you said you can't understand the hope base from my mouth. I agree with that. Then we can learn about this base from the people of the hope base, right? Hu Yahuan said, turning to look at a group of hope soldiers. These hope soldiers are the patrol team of the hope base. They are in a group of 10 people. There are 200 such groups in the hope base, patrolling around the hope base. They are both a patrol team and a law enforcement team. If there is any dispute between members of the hope base, they will be responsible for handling it. They are almost equivalent to the security guards and police officers before the end of the world. How many of you, Hu Yahuan waved to these patrols and shouted, can I trouble you? I have some questions to ask. The captain of the patrol team looked at these people and frowned, but still led his team to Hu Yahuan and the others. What's going on? The patrol leader looked at Hu Yahuan and asked. Oh. Actually, it's nothing. We have just arrived here and don't know much about it yet, so we want to know more about it. After all, we will live here in the future. It is also necessary to know more about the rules here. Hu Yahuan looked at the patrol captain and smiled. Well, just ask any questions you have. I will try to tell you what I know. The patrol captain nodded. Hu Yahuan's words made sense. He didn't mind explaining it to Hu Yahuan. Anyway, there was nothing shameful in the hope base. I want to ask, Hu Yahuan pointed in the direction of the Bishui garden and asked, is that the headquarters of our hope base? It looks very safe. Yes. That's the headquarters, the patrol captain nodded. Can we move there? Hu Yahuan asked again. Of course not, the patrol captain frowned. Only formal members of the base can enter there. You just arrived and don't have formal membership yet, so you can't move there. Besides, it's safe here, so don't worry. Okay. I see, I'll ask again. Hu Yahuan nodded repeatedly. I see that you all seem to be the strength of evolvers. Where are the awakened ones in our hope base? Awakened, the patrol captain was stunned, and then looked in the direction of the Black Dragon Bridge. Awakened ones are all from the Guardian Corps. They rarely stay in the base. They are searching outside, rescuing survivors and collecting supplies. The Guardian Corps is the sword of the Hope Base and the glory of the Hope Base. Fighting is their mission. Speaking of the Guardian Corps, the patrol captain's eyes flashed with excitement and envy. Being able to enter the Guardian Corps is the goal of all Hope Warriors. He was not able to persist to the end during the training of instructor Li Yingning and could only become a Hope Warrior, but his envy of the Guardian Corps, even these survivors, can be seen from his eyes. Are all awakened people fighting outside? Are there any who stay in the Hope Base to farm? Or do other work? Hu Yahuan asked again. Farming, the patrol captain shook his head. Farming is impossible. It's a waste to use awakened people to farm. However, there are some awakened people in the headquarters, such as military advisor Duan Lei and sister Shen, or brother Lu and others. They are responsible for handling matters within the Hope Base. They are all core members. They are also awakened, but they rarely go out. In terms of fighting, the head has always been responsible, or Lu Tiu and Tang Tiu and others. In short, awakened people will not go to farm. You also have many awakened people here, but whether they can be incorporated into the Guardian Corps is not certain. It is very likely that you will be incorporated into the Hope Corps. The requirements for entering the Guardian Corps are very high. Not just any awakened person can enter our Guardian Corps. Thank you. Finally, let me ask a question. Are there people from our Hope Base living in Heilong City now? Hu Yahuan quickly changed the subject. Heilong City? There are no settlements there. The current settlements are all near Ganlin County. The patrol captain frowned. Heilong City is too close to Jianguan Town. We used to worry about the appearance of mutant beasts in the sea. Although Jianguantown has established a defense system and does not need to worry about this, there are no settlements there yet. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. I have no questions. Hu Yahuan achieved his goal and wanted to send the patrol captain away. Now these questions are enough. If he asks more, he might be exposed. Brother. I see from your expression that you seem to be very yearning for the Guardian Corps. The man with glasses suddenly spoke at this time. Isn't the Guardian Corps always fighting outside? There must be danger, right? Why do you envy them so much? Isn't it safer to stay in the Hope base? Dangerous, the patrol leader chuckled and said, in this Doomsday, where is not dangerous? Back then, during the second upheaval, the Hope base was also attacked, and even a farm was directly destroyed by mutant creatures, leaving no one behind. But after joining the Guardian Corps, the treatment will be much better, you know? Our Guardian Corps is now all awakened. The Corps Commander Wang Feng, who is also our leader, has surpassed the realm of the Guardian. It is an honor for all of us to be able to fight under his command. The patrol leader's eyes lit up, and then he said a little sadly, alas. It's a pity that I didn't pass the instructor's training and can only join the Hope Corps. However, as long as I work hard, I think I will definitely have a chance to join the Guardian Corps. Hearing the words of the patrol leader, the man with glasses flickered, as if he was thinking about something. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 485. When Hu Yahuan saw the bespectacled man's expression, he secretly thought something was wrong. He quickly said to the patrol leader, "Thank you very much. You still have work, so I won't waste your time." "Okay. Let's go then," the patrol leader nodded and said, "You should also pay attention. I believe you now know the rules of Hope Base. If you want to stay here, you'd better abide by them. As long as you abide by the rules, you can do it here. Stay calm, otherwise, you may be kicked out. The bloody-handed butcher in our base is not easy to talk to." The bloody-hand butcher, Hu Yahuan was shocked. Of course he knew the name of the bloody-hand butcher Lu Feng. If these people knew about Lu Feng's deeds, his plan would definitely be ruined, so he hurriedly said, "Captain, thank you very much for letting us know more about Hope Base. I won't bother you with patrolling. You can go and do your work." The patrol captain nodded, and then left with his men. The man with glasses looked at Hu Yahuan's performance, and his eyes flashed, as if he had thought of something. "Everyone. How are you? Is it clear now?" After all the Hope warriors left, Hu Yahuan looked at the people around him and said, "Awakened ones and above are all going to join the search team to fight against the Devourer, that is to say, our safety is still not guaranteed. The only way to survive is to tell them, like I said, that we will not join the Hope Base and go to Black Dragon City to support ourselves. Although it may be a little tiring, at least it is safe. Do you want to go out? Then facing those terrible Devourers. The devil wants to fight those Devourers." The bald head spat, "I agree with your suggestion. Tomorrow we will go to those guys and tell them that we will not join their Hope Base and we will live in Black Dragon City. Isn't it just farming? As long as you don't fight the Devourer, you can do anything." The other survivors also nodded in agreement. After seeing the horror of the Devourer, none of them had the courage to fight the Devourer. Before, they thought that they, as an awakened person, should be allowed to farm the land. It's really a bit embarrassing, but now, they just hope to stay here and farm safely. At least it's safe. Compared with life, everything else is unimportant, whether it's face or anything else. At least, you have to ensure that you can survive in order to enjoy everything else. If you die, no matter how big the benefit is, there will be no benefits. What is it for? I can't launch my plan tomorrow. What we need now is for more people to join us, Hu Yahuan couldn't help but feel a little happy when he saw that his plan was successful. Look, we have just such a small number of people now. Black Dragon, the city is enough for us to live in, but we don't have food. Tomorrow we will go to the Hope Base and secretly find some of their peripheral members. As far as I know, there are many people in the Hope Base who are actually not satisfied with their lives. It is just because of the strong pressure from the Hope Base. They don't dare to speak out. We can win over these people and let them join us, so that we can get some food and seeds. They farm here and have to pay a heavy tax. We only need to promise that after they come to Heilong City with us, we will only take 10% of their harvest. This ratio is far lower than what the Hope Base levies on them. In this way, we can take away a group of people. They should all have some grain and seeds. In this way, with their grain and the fact that we can salvage some seafood at the beach, there should be no problem in persisting for the first period of time. As long as the first batch of grain is harvested, our lives will be stable. With a relatively safe environment and enough food, we shouldn't need anything else in this apocalypse, right? Hu Yahuan looked at these survivors and painted a very beautiful picture for them. Okay. I agree. Let's do it. Baldhead was the first to stand up and support. I agree too. I think this is good, other survivors also shouted. The man with eyes looked at everything in front of him and didn't say anything. He was just thinking about something quietly. Afterwards, Hu Yahuan and the survivors discussed together for a long time until all the details, including how to win over other peripheral members of the Hope Base, were finalized. Then they slowly dispersed and returned to the Hope Base to prepare for them. Abode and sleep peacefully. Alas! It seems that the next few days will not be very peaceful. The man with glasses lay on the bed, looked at the ceiling, and murmured. Then, he slowly closed his eyes and quickly fell asleep. It looks like. What do they seem to have in mind? Lu Feng sneered as he watched the people on the screen gradually disperse. Because these living areas were all newly built, in order to prevent the destruction of mutated organisms, the monitoring system, the location was very hidden, and Hu Yahuan didn't know that their every move was displayed on the big screen at the headquarters. Ignore him. Just let them make trouble. Duan Lei sighed. The madman asked me to select some trustworthy people. Let Hu Yahuan help us carry out a big wave to clean up those guys who are not determined. One batch came out. Lao Lu. And Lao Lu, please cooperate with them these 2 days and try to provide them with some conveniences. Don't interfere with them in any way. Just let them perform freely. Xiao Lei. In this case, we may lose a group of people. Is this necessary? Lu Qiang couldn't bear it, so he said, if these people stay with us, they will have no sense of belonging to the Hope Base, but I believe that time will change them. After all, there are not many humans left in this world. Old Lu. You are right, time may change them, but, what we lack most now is time. In 10 months, the Devourer brood will come. If we hope that the base cannot be integrated, we must work together. Working together to fight against the Devourer, all that awaits us is failure. Duan Lei looked at Lu Qiang and said with a serious expression, if it hadn't been for the Devourer's brood, I wouldn't have done this, because there are indeed not many humans left now, but it's different now. The information brought back from number 7. Look, Madman should have a lot of awakening potions now. I think that when Madman comes back, not only the Hope Legion, but also the official members of the Hope Base may have the opportunity to become awakened. This is the most critical moment for our Hope Base. I don't want to have a situation where a large number of members will leave our base after becoming awakened. Therefore, let Hu Yahuan be a touchstone for our Hope Base. All right. Anyone who is not determined, let them leave. No one knows better than you how we want the base to do. If this still fails to retain people's hearts, it only means that such people are not worth saving. After listening to Duan Lei's words, everyone present nodded lightly. No one objected. Even Lu Qiang just sighed softly, but he also knew that Duanlei was right. If they had time, they could still wait. Wait for time and circumstances to change those people. But now, they really have no time. Moreover, although Duanlei and the others are deliberately promoting this matter, choices are made by people themselves. Whichever path is chosen, they can only follow that path. As the road continues, everyone needs to pay the due price for the choices they make, no matter whether the price is good or bad. In the next 2 days, Hu Yahuan and the nearly 30,000 survivors were still wandering around in the Hope Base. Due to the instructions of Lu Feng and Lu Qiang, the Hope Corps also completely let them go. Except for the Clear Water Garden, they can go wherever they want, and no one will stop them. In the past 2 days, these survivors have done a pretty good job. Even some people in the Hope Legion were persuaded by them and prepared to follow them to live in Black Dragon City. Duanlei and others, who had been paying attention to them secretly, could not help but shake their heads secretly. They did not expect that even the soldiers of the Hope Legion could be persuaded by them. This was a bit beyond their expectations. According to Duanlei's guess, when Wang Feng comes back, he should bring back a large amount of awakening potions. He hopes that all the soldiers in the Legion will be able to become awakened ones. But now, it is obvious that some people have given up this opportunity. Old Hu. Is it almost done? Where Hu Yahuan and the others lived, the bald man said carelessly, there are already many people who are willing to join our rejuvenation base. When will we tell them clearly and then leave directly? Not only are Hu Yahuan and the others planning to open a new base directly in Heilong City, they have even thought of a name for the base. It is called the Renaissance Base, which means to revive mankind. It sounds like a very good wish, but I don't know. When can it be realized? Well, I think it's almost done. Otherwise, we will notify everyone tomorrow morning, then start the showdown with them at noon, and leave in the afternoon. By evening, our revival base should be truly established. Hu Yahuan he also said it with great enthusiasm. Because they claim freedom and equality, many peripheral members of the Hope Base have been persuaded by them and are ready to join them. Because of the system of the Hope Base, there is still a certain gap between them and the official members, although in terms of treatment, there is a big difference. At least food and clothing can be guaranteed, and the reason Duanlei implemented the system is also to give them some motivation to work more actively and contribute to the Hope Base. Unexpectedly, this system has become a breakthrough for Hu Yahuan and the others. Pressure will become a motivation for hard-working people, and at the same time, it will also become an excuse for lazy people to give up. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 486. Hearing Hu Yahuan's words, Baldhead couldn't help but get excited and shouted quickly, "Everyone, come here quickly, we are ready to launch tomorrow. Let's discuss it together." Hearing the words of the bald head, the awakened people among the survivors gathered here one after another. As for the other people, they basically all agreed that they would stand on their side when the time comes. After all, for them, these talents it is considered they're one of their own, Hope Base, and they are not very familiar with it yet. Among the awakened people, only the man with glasses and 3 other awakened people who did not intend to cause trouble with them because they saw some problems and that they were saved by Wang Feng did not participate in their discussion. Instead, he stayed aside silently and watched the situation develop. However, since the 4 people have similar opinions, even if they were not familiar with each other before, these 4 people can now be regarded as forming a small group. Lao Yu. Do you think they can succeed? A strong man with purple face looked at the man with glasses and asked. The man with glasses was named Yu Shengli, which was quite auspicious. Haha. Whether they succeed or not, What does it have to do with us? Yu Shengli smiled and said, at least, I will not do such an ungrateful thing. I will feel uncomfortable in my heart. That's right. I am too, said a thin young man next to him. No matter what, they saved us and gave us a place to stay. We can't be too unscrupulous. This young man looks gentle and very thin, but he has a very rough voice. If you don't look at people and just listen to the voice, you will definitely think that this guy is a figure who looks like Black Tornado Li Kuei. Haha. Tang Jiafei. I want to laugh every time I hear you speak. The last awakened person looked at the thin young man and laughed loudly. How come you have such a rough voice? Humph. What's wrong with my voice? Tang Jiafei, a thin young man, said, don't worry about your voice, as long as you speak human words, otherwise, no matter how nice it sounds, it's useless. Xiao Tang said it well. Yu Shengli applauded, that's right. It doesn't matter what kind of voice you use, as long as you speak human words, that's fine. And the most important thing is to do some human things, not just for the sake of you can do anything by yourself. Hey! Brothers! What will we do tomorrow? The purple-faced strong man asked at this time. Although we will not follow them, if they really go to the headquarters of Hope Base to cause trouble tomorrow, we will probably be arrested. Implicated. Old Wang. Don't worry about this. I have observed the people in this base in the past 2 days, and I found that they are not like what Hu Yahuan said. On the contrary, they give me the feeling that the order of this Hope Base is okay, Yu Shengli said. Although their official member system divides people into 3, 6, or 9 grades, in fact, people are not really treated differently. At least, no matter who they are, as long as the people in this base are willing to work, there will be food to eat. In this apocalyptic world, we have a safe environment and food to eat. What more do we ask for? If we can survive in this apocalyptic world, we should be satisfied. Those who are persuaded by them are also a group of short-sighted guys. I don't understand, is there really that big a difference between a 10% tax and a 20% tax? Hope Base levies a tax of 20% of the harvest on the survivors on the farms. The survivors can keep the remaining food for themselves, or they can turn it in and exchange it for points. In the Hope Base, points are equivalent to currency and are quite stable. For example, if you sell a pound of grain for 1 point, you only need 1 point to buy grain again. The base will never earn the price difference. Therefore, for the survivors in the Hope Base is actually quite good. It does not exploit them very much, and it also gives them a safe environment so that they do not have to face the threat of zombies. But the human heart will never be satisfied. After a stable life has become a habit and the threat of zombies has gradually faded away, some people begin to feel dissatisfied again. In their eyes, why should they go to work after working so hard in farming? Pay 20%? In their view, this was the Hope Base's exploitation of them. Coupled with the instigation of Hu Yahuan and the others, the dissatisfaction in the hearts of these people suddenly burst out, and the prospects painted by Hu Yahuan and the others were also very good. To live in Black Dragon City, you only need to pay 10% tax, and you are also under the protection of the Hope Base. Hu Yahuan and his group of more than 2,000 and nearly 3,000 awakened people serve as the second protection net, so it is still many people were moved. They did not expect that although they paid a 20% tax, they hoped that the base would also provide them with a safe environment so that they would not be threatened by zombies and mutated creatures, especially devourers. What's more, the Hope Base is still being renovated, all to make them safer, because they are accustomed to receiving the protection of the Hope Base and take it for granted. Because they are human beings, and so are Wang Feng and the others, so they should protect themselves. They do not need to thank them or pay taxes. These are what they should do. Since you have established a base, you should build it well and make it safer. This is your responsibility. Why do we have to hand over so much of the food we grow to you? Even if you gave us zombie corpses as fertilizer, they are useless in the first place. If you don't give us fertilizer, can you still eat these corpses directly? When people feel dissatisfied in their hearts, they can find many excuses for anything, and in their view, these excuses are quite high-sounding and fair. When there is no awe and gratitude in a person's heart, he will become extremely selfish. No matter what kind of environment, he will not be able to meet his requirements. He will only become more and more inflated, feeling that he deserves more. Such people can never be satisfied. That's true. In fact, in this apocalyptic world, as long as there is a safe environment, what else is there to be dissatisfied with? Tang Jifei sighed, but some people don't think so. They always feel that what others owe them is what they get. Everything is a matter of course, no matter how much others pay, it is their due. When it is his turn, he feels that he is at a loss. Lao Yu. Do you think their operation will be successful tomorrow? Asked the purple-faced strong man known as Lao Wang. Absolutely impossible, Yu Shengli shook his head and said, looking at the size of the Hope Base, you can see that the top management of this Hope Base has high management experience. In fact, the points system is quite good, and the people here, and most of them are used to this method, and those who are persuaded by Hu Yahuan and others are only a handful of people. I estimate that if we add them all together, we may not even be able to collect 50,000 people. Such a small number of people cannot make a big splash for this base with a population of several million. And I also asked, look, there are definitely not more than 3,000 awakened people in Hope Base as Hu Yahuan said, 30,000 is about the same. You said that a base with 30,000 awakened people would compromise with people like them. It's just a joke. Hu Yahuan said it nicely. Why does Hope Base not go to war with them? They are a threat to Hope Base. Everything is it's just wishful thinking on their part. The way I see it, I hope the base won't kill them, but it will definitely not let them stay here. Driving them all away is probably the final result of the Hope Base's treatment of them. Haha. Looking at their cheerful expressions, I'm really looking forward to it. I want to see what expressions they will have on their faces after they fail tomorrow. The purple-faced old Wang looked at Hu Yahuan and the others in the distance and sneered. Oh. It has nothing to do with me anyway, huh? By the way. Old Yu. You say, should we tell the senior officials of Hope Base about what's going on here so that they can be on guard? The fairest skinned among the four, the awakened one, said. Haha. Old Lin. Do you think that the people in this Hope Base are all vegetarians? Do you think they don't know the situation here? Yu Shengli laughed. Let me tell you. Hu Yahuan and the others are obviously here. They were used as spearheads by the senior leaders of the Hope Base to test the loyalty of those members of the Hope Base. Otherwise, do you think they will go so smoothly? No one will stop them wherever they go, and no one will care about what they say. After all, this is the territory of the Hope Base. If their senior officials don't want this, I bet that Hu Yahuan and the others won't do it at all. Find a way to get in touch with other Hope Base members. Damn it. When you say that, it really is like this. Lao Lin shrank his neck and said with some fear, fortunately, I was not dragged into the water by them. It seems that we have been so free these days, and we still have hope. The base probably left us alone. It seems to be true, so won't we be implicated? Tang Jifei's face looked a little unnatural. We didn't participate in their affairs, so how could it implicate us? As long as we stay away from them tomorrow, it's best to find a job directly and show our attitude, there should be no problem. I believe that this hope the people at the base are not so unreasonable, said the purple-faced old king. Oh. Just watch. Tomorrow will be a good day, there will be a lot of people who will regret it. Yu Shengli sighed leisurely while looking at Hu Yahuan and others who were still having a heated discussion. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 487. In the early morning, the sun shines warmly on the earth, indicating that today is another sunny day. Wang Feng, Duan Lei, Lu Qiang, Lu Feng, Tang Haoshan and other core members of the Hope Base are in the clubhouse of the Bishui community, looking at the big screen on the wall and chatting. Wang Feng sneaked back with number 7 last night and was not discovered by anyone. In order to avoid the Hope Warriors on the Black Dragon Bridge, Wang Feng even launched a gust of wind and rushed across the Black Dragon Bridge at the fastest speed. Lazy eye. Are you sure they will launch it today? Wang Feng asked Hu Yahuan and others on the screen. Of course, Duan Lei said, in the past 2 days, they have already won over many people in the base. Even the members of the Hope Corps have been persuaded by them and are ready to settle down in Heilong City with them. Alas! I can't believe it, Lu Qiang sighed and said, it's okay for those ordinary peripheral members. It's not too strange that they can be persuaded. How can the soldiers of the Hope Corps? Actually, this is normal. Tang Haoshan patted Lu Qiang on the shoulder, looked at him seriously and said, most of the people in the Hope Corps entered the Hope Corps without passing the instructor's training. They saw that their former comrades in arms passed the training and became a member of the Guardian Corps, and their strength suddenly they are making rapid progress, and naturally they feel unbalanced. After all, they had the same status before, but now they see their comrades become the main combat corps, while they can only work as security guards in the second line corps. If they were ordinary survivors, they might feel lucky because at least they are relatively safe, but for the arrogant soldiers, they would definitely feel aggrieved and even feel a little ashamed. Hu Yahuan and his proposal just allows them to leave, which makes them feel a little lost. They just define themselves as losers. When they see the Guardian Corps, they feel a little uncomfortable, so they feel that leaving here is not if I see them every day, maybe I can feel better. But it's not bad. After all, there are only a few people who think so. Of the 120,000 strong Hope Corps, less than 200 are moved by them. From a proportional point of view, it's not very high. Of course, the treatment of our Hope Base is already quite good. Those who are moved by them are just too full of shit in their heads. Lu Feng snorted coldly, you still want to go to Heilong City? It's a beautiful thought. They can accept our protection and not accept our control. They take all the benefits. Alas! Just a group of pitiful people. Gui Weivong shook his head and sighed, I heard that what they used to seduce those guys was the dependents their people are only taxed 10%, which is 10% less than ours. And there is no difference between formal members and peripheral members among them. All of them can get the same safe accommodation. They have even promised that the commercial district in the center of Heilong City will be their residence. The most ridiculous thing is that they claim that they have 2 lines of defense, which are safer than ours. The first line of defense is our Hope Base, and the second line of defense is naturally the more than 2,000 awakened people among them. Report to the military advisor. They have set off. At this time, a voice came from the intercom. This was the guard warrior arranged by Duan Lei to monitor Hu Yahuan and his group. Haha. The good show is about to start, Lu Feng chuckled, with a strong murderous intent in his eyes. Old Lu. Try not to kill too many people today, Duan Lei said hurriedly when he saw Lu Feng's expression. For today's matter, Duan Lei had already recalled more than 10,000 people from the Guardian Corps. If Lu Feng couldn't hold back and gave an order to kill all those troublemakers, it would not be a difficult task. Such people should be kept too, Lu Feng said indifferently. Alas! After all, they are still human beings, and nearly 3,000 awakened people are also a huge force. After all, they are also enemies of the Devourer. Just drive them out, there is no need to kill them all, Duan Lei sighed. Okay. I will try to hold back, but if there is anyone who is blind and says something excessive, I can't guarantee that I can control my emotions, Lu Feng nodded. Hearing Lu Feng's words, Wang Feng and others shook their heads and smiled bitterly. At the beginning, because those troublemakers said that Wang Feng was an idiot, Lu Feng went berserk and killed them all. If there are still such blind people this time, Lu Feng will probably not hold back. Anyway, his name of Bloody Butcher has been called out. In the eyes of the survivors of the Hope Base, Lu Feng has long been bloody, cruel and murderous, and he doesn't care about more blood debts. We will go out first. Old Lu, and the madman, you two don't show up yet. This time, I want to use Hu Yahuan and others to test the members of our Hope Base. Hu Yahuan and others are the touchstone. If you show up too early, some people may be scared and dare not jump out. Duanlei looked at the big screen, and then said to Lu Feng and Wang Feng, why don't the others stay in first? Just the big guy, me, and Shan Shan will go out. Actually, Duanlei had planned to let Lu Wanting go out as well, but since Wang Feng just came back last night, and Lu Wanting was now clinging to Wang Feng, and it looked like she didn't want to be separated for a moment, so he tactfully didn't call her. Okay. You guys go out, Wang Feng waved his hand and said casually. Anyway, there are surveillance cameras, and they can still see the situation outside from inside. When they are needed to show up, they can go out. In fact, for such a small matter, Wang Feng and his team don't need to show up at all. The more than 10,000 guards who came back can easily solve this trouble. However, in Duanlei's plan, he also wants to use this incident to increase the cohesion of the Hope Base, so Wang Feng said that he must show up at the end, and he must also announce a very exciting news. This news should also be heard by those who betrayed the Hope Base. I believe that by then, their faces will be very good, especially those Hope Corps soldiers who are about to leave the Hope Base. Seeing that Hu Yahuan and others were about to arrive at the gate of the Bishui Garden, Duanlei smiled slightly and walked out with Shen Yisan and Lu Qiang, while Wang Feng and others continued to stay in the clubhouse to watch the development of the situation. Hu Yahuan and others came to the gate of the Bishui community, and then they did not make a noise. They did not want to make a big fuss, so they just stood silently outside the gate of the Bishui Garden. Now, outside the gate of the Bishui Garden, a very large square has been built, which can accommodate at least 3 million people at the same time. This was designed by Duanlei himself. Unexpectedly, it has played some role now. At least Hu Yahuan and his tens of thousands of people did not feel crowded at all when standing in the square. After seeing that all his people had gathered, Hu Yahuan signaled to the bald man and asked him to tell the guard at the door that they wanted to find the leader of the Hope Base to discuss something. Hu Yahuan himself certainly didn't dare to come forward. He was afraid that he would be recognized. Once his deeds were made public, there might be changes in his people, so he asked the bald man to come forward. When the bald man came to the door, Duanlei had already walked out with Lu Qiang and Shen Yishan. When they saw that there were only 3 of them, the survivors who came with Hu Yahuan were obviously relieved. What they feared most was that Lu Feng would appear here. After all, the name of the Bloody Butcher had already become extremely famous in the Hope Base as the video spread. But fortunately, they were not here to cause trouble, but to leave. In their eyes, this should not be a difficult matter. After all, the Hope Base itself said that if you want to leave, you can leave at any time. The Hope Base will never force anyone. They can't eat what they said themselves, right? After all, there are so many people watching here. If the top leaders of the Hope Base don't keep their word, it will also have a great impact on their image. The Hope Base should not do this. After all, the total number of people who are preparing to leave the Hope Base is less than 100,000, which is insignificant for the Hope Base with a population of 3 to 4 million. In fact, it is not easy for these people to have the courage to come here. Most of them are lazy and greedy. Staying in the Hope Base is just waiting for death. The labor they put in every day is barely enough to exchange for their living needs. There is no extra points to exchange for the status of a formal member of the Hope Base. They can't see the hope of becoming a formal member, so they are naturally dissatisfied. They did not attribute this to their laziness, but thought that the hope base was not fair. Why can everyone have so many points? They eat rice, flour, and mutant beast meat all day long, but they can only drink sweet potato corn porridge every day. Although those people do more work than themselves, it is because they eat well and naturally have strength. They do less work because they have poor food and no physical strength, so of course they can't work. At any time, there are always such people. When others succeed, they will be jealous and regard the success of this person as luck, or that they are lucky and were born in a good family, while they themselves are too unlucky, have not been able to find a job that recognizes their talents, and have not gotten such an opportunity. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 488. As for the ups and downs and hardships this successful person went through before success, they will not think about it. They will only envy and hate anyone who has a better life than themselves, while complaining about their bad luck. He has so much talent but no one appreciates it. What they never understand is that people have to work hard to succeed, rather than working hard after success. Even if you want to win the lottery and become rich overnight, you must at least go out and buy a lottery ticket first. When Hu Yahuan and the others bewitched these people, they also hesitated, but in the end the reason that made them decide to leave with Hu Yahuan and the others was precisely because they came from the Hope Base. Everyone in the Hope Base knows how good the treatment of the official members of the Hope Base is, but now if you want to obtain the status of a formal member of the Hope Base, you need to exchange it with points. Although the points are not too many, one person as long as you work diligently and hard, you can accumulate these points in just 2 or 3 months. However, not all of these formal members exchanged points for their status as formal members. On the contrary, most of the formal members had this status automatically. The reason is that they have joined the Hope Base since its establishment and are among the first members of the Hope Base, so they all automatically obtain the status of official members. Of course, there are also some people who are members of the Hope Base because they are in certain those who have expertise in certain aspects, such as Nongming or the 3 bridge experts who first built the Black Dragon Bridge, obtain the status of official members in this way. Therefore, in the hearts of these people, they are unlucky and hope that they were not here when the base was first established. But now, Hu Yahuan and his base have just been established. If they join now, they will be considered veteran members. Moreover, in fact, they have not really left. They are still within the scope of the Hope Base. They can still be protected by the Hope Base, their skills are protected, and they don't have to listen to their commands. This kind of thing is of course a dream for them. Therefore, Hu Yahuan and the others were able to persuade tens of thousands of people to join them in just 2 days. Furthermore, Hu Yahuan and the others had a brighter future. That is, when people like myself take root in Heilong City, when they see their small life and live a comfortable life, other members of the Hope Base may take the initiative to ask to join them. Maybe after a period of time, they can even compete with the Hope Base branch and establish a survival base with a population that is not inferior to that of the Hope Base. These unappreciated survivors were like this. Amid the empty promises and the bright prospects painted by Hu Yahuan and others, these survivors accepted Hu Yahuan's invitation and became the first members of the Renaissance base. Duan Lei brought Lu Qiang and Shen Yishan to the bald head. At this time, the bald head was surrounded by many awakened people. They were all the main members of the revival base and the organizers of this incident. Hu Yahuan hid himself in the crowd. He didn't know that his identity had already been exposed. At this time, Hu Yahuan not only wore a hat and sunglasses, but also found a mask to cover his face. Duan Lei looked at Hu Yahuan and did not call him. Instead, he turned to the bald head and asked, "What do you want from me? Are you the leader of the Hope Base?" Looking at Duan Lei's young face, the bald man asked with some suspicion. "That's right. I am," Duan Lei nodded and said, "if you need anything, just tell me." "Ha ha. It turns out that the Hope Base is actually led by a young boy. No wonder. The bald man couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. When he thought about it, their plan would go smoothly today. In fact, the bald man also had some other plans. Idea. That's right. We all came here 2 days ago, and we have learned a lot about the Hope Base in the past 2 days. In our opinion, there are many loopholes in the management of your Hope Base. The bald head looked at Doomsday carelessly and said, after all, Doomsday was just a young man in his 20s, and it was really impossible to attract the attention of the bald head. The bald head even regretted, if he had known that such a young man was the leader of this Hope Base, the plan can be changed, and maybe this Hope Base can be taken over from this young boy. This bald man was also the leader of a camp before. In fact, most of the awakened people around him are important figures in each camp. After all, in other places, the number of awakened people is not so large. Once he becomes an awakened person, he can take over a whole camp. Camp. Loophole, Doomsday smiled, and he suddenly felt that things were getting more and more interesting. From the eyes of the bald man, it seemed to him that the bald man was about to change his plan. Maybe it was because his image was too young, which made the bald man, now no longer satisfies their previous appetite. That's right. Let me tell you, Yuan Shiming. I used to be the leader of a base with a population of hundreds of thousands. I have quite a lot of management experience. And the people behind me, most of them are commanders of various camps. My understanding of this apocalypse is definitely not something that a young boy like you can match. The bald man pointed at himself proudly, then pointed at the people behind him and said, "Look at your Hope Base. The population is indeed very large, but your management is too chaotic. How can it continue like this? You are too young and inexperienced. Do you know that one of your wrong decisions may very well lead to the collapse of the country? Everyone in this base is in danger." "Then what do you think we should do?" Doomsday asked with a smile. "Hey. This is easy to handle. We are all base leaders, and we are all human beings. Especially, you have so many survivors here. These are our hopes for the revival of humanity. We must not want to see them destroyed at your hands." The bald man pretended to be sincere and said, "Let's do this. You will still be the leader of your base, and we will not take away your power. No matter what, you established this base. You have to work hard without any credit. Have you seen us people? You add us all to your management, and we form a parliament to turn this Hope Base into a democratic base. You also know that democracy is the governance method that the people want most. When everyone adds fuel to the fire, the best idea is for us to come up with ideas together. One person's ideas will always make mistakes. After we form the parliament, you will also have a seat in the parliament, and because you are the leader, you can have 2 votes. The rest of us have 1 vote per person. If anything happens in the future, we will all vote through the parliament. If there are more votes in favor, we will implement it. If there are more votes in opposition, we will think of other ways. Only in this way can we make this Hope Base get better and better. Alas. In fact, we are all tired of being leaders. It's just that you have too many people here and the lives of millions of people are at stake. We have to work hard and return to management positions. What do you think? My suggestion is not bad, right? You are still the supreme leader of the Hope Base, and this way, your job will be easier. Before, if you made any mistakes, you would inevitably blame yourself in your heart. Others will also have opinions on you, but now it's okay. There are so many of us here to help you refer to it. Not to mention that it's almost impossible to make mistakes. Even if there are mistakes, we all bear them together, so your burden will be much easier." This idiot, looking at the smug bald head, Hu Yuan cursed in his heart. Although he had not been in contact with Duanlei and others for a long time, Hu Yahuan knew in his heart that this little guy Duanlei was not so easy to deal with. My previous plan should have some hope of success because it attracted a group of members from the Hope Base. As long as Duanlei saw that there were many of them and his tone was more polite, he might soften his heart and agree to let them go to Heilong City to establish a base. But he didn't expect that after seeing Duanlei at such a young age, the bald man would actually get into trouble. The idea of annexing the Hope Base came up. What he said just now sounds nice. Duanlei is still the supreme leader, one person has 2 votes, but anyone with a little bit of brains can hear that the bald head's method completely divided Duanlei's power. When voting, people like them will naturally stick together. Duanlei, let alone 2 votes, even if he has 20 or even 200 votes, it will have no effect in front of the votes of more than 2,000 of them. No. They easily controlled the Hope Base without any effort. How could Duanlei agree to such a thing? And due to Baldhead's greed, once Duanlei is angered, they may have to pay a certain price if they want to leave here. Of course, this is because Hu Yahuan doesn't know the true strength of Hope Base. If Hu Yahuan knew that there were more than 10,000 guardian warriors with the strength of awakened people around them, I am afraid he would start to retreat now. But now the bald head and Duanlei were talking face to face, and Hu Yahuan didn't dare to step forward to stop the bald head even if he wanted to, because he was worried that once he spoke, Duanlei would recognize him, and then he would be in real trouble. The bald head naturally didn't know what Hu Yahuan was thinking. At this time, the bald head was looking at Duanlei eagerly. If Duanlei agreed, then they would reach the sky in one step. I hope that the base would definitely be the most suitable base for survival in the apocalypse. If they can get this base, their chances of survival will also be greatly increased. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 489. Looking at the bald head's expectant eyes, Duanlei smiled softly, then shook his head and said, "No need. I think the current management model of our Hope Base is pretty good. I won't bother you." The bald head was stunned, and then said quickly, "No trouble. No trouble. We are idle anyway, why not contribute to the continuation of mankind, and you hope that the management of the base is indeed chaotic, and we need experienced management. We are all human beings, and our common enemy is the Devourer. I know you are very good at dealing with Devourers, so I will leave all external operations to you in the future. As for the Hope Base, just feel free to leave it to us. We will manage it in an orderly manner and save you from worries." Ha 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 ha, the bald head's words made Luqiang burst into laughter. This bald head was indeed shameless. He left all the matters of fighting against the Devourers to Duanlei and the others, and then took over the management of the Hope Base, giving away any benefits. They took it? Do they think Duanlei is a fool? Boy! Do you really dare to say that? Luqiang looked at the bald head with cold eyes. Even a person with Luqiang's personality was aroused by the bald head. At this moment, he no longer wanted to endure it, so he just broke up and said nothing. He said without mercy, "Why should we leave our base to your management? What a good idea. Leave all the fighting to us, and you will just sit back and enjoy the results. Can you be any more shameless? Hey? How can you talk like this? How can you curse people?" Baldhead looked at Luqiang and said with some dissatisfaction, "What do you mean by sitting back and enjoying the benefits? We are well intentioned. Seeing that you hope that there is something wrong with the management of the base, he is the leader of each camp and has rich management experience. We are also thinking about your base. Why are you so kind and treating us like a donkey? Look at the number of people behind us who are members of your Hope Base. Just 2 days after we arrived, These people reported to us that there is a problem with your management methods. This is only a small part. If we include them all, find out, it's definitely more than that. If there is nothing wrong with your management, why would they be dissatisfied with you? Or you still have a problem? We just want to help you correct your mistakes. You must admit your mistakes so that you can make progress. Besides, there are so many people in the space, and I am responsible for their lives. I cannot let you continue to act like this. You are committing a crime against humanity, Baldhead said indignantly. Oh? What do you mean? Do you mean that many of us are dissatisfied with our hope base? Duanlei asked softly. Does that need to be said? It's just that you are too overbearing, so these people dare to be angry but dare not speak out, Baldhead said matter-of-factly. If you don't believe the method I just proposed, you can try it first. Let us do it. It will take a period of time, not more, just half a month or a month, and then you will be able to see our results. If you think it's not possible at that time, at worst we will return the management rights to you. Your base is very big, but we don't take it seriously. We just can't bear that the people living here have to live in dire straits every day. I just want to save them. The Baldhead had a good idea. No matter what he did, as long as Duanlei agreed, half a month would be enough for them to gain a foothold. By then, it would be up to them to decide whether to hand over their rights or not. In short, the most important thing now is to persuade Duanlei to hand over their rights to people like him. As for the other things, we will wait until they have their full strength. Hu Yahuan looked at Duanlei's eyes, and his heart sank. From Duanlei's eyes, Hu Yahuan saw a hint of murderous intent, but now he can't do anything. Even those people around Baldhead, after hearing Baldhead's words, also thought that they might take over the management of the Hope Base, so they all said nothing and just stood aside quietly to watch. For them, going to Black Dragon City was indeed their original plan, but now, since they have the opportunity to take the entire Hope Base into their hands, why not give it a try? If that doesn't work, it's not too late to move to Heilong City. So, your base is managed very well, Duanlei looked at the Baldhead and sneered. Of course, upon hearing this, the Baldhead quickly made a proud look, and then said, there are hundreds of thousands of survivors in my camp, and the construction of the camp is also quite safe. The survivors there are all very respected. And I also leave them to live and work in peace and contentment in this end of the world. The strength of our camp is quite strong. The survivors who came to our camp have not had any complaints about our camp since they arrived, and no one wants to leave, although our numbers are not as good as yours. But the atmosphere there is definitely much better than yours. The bald man boasted shamelessly. They couldn't see his camp anyway. No matter how much he boasted, he was not afraid of revealing his secrets. He just had to brag a little more. It was best to brag until he didn't believe it. That's what he was bragging about. The highest realm. Oh. Is it so good? So, can I ask, how is your camp, which is like a paradise on earth, doing now? Duanlei looked at the Baldhead and asked softly. Baldhead was at a loss for words. His camp had been breached by Devourer. Even he was captured and sent to Devourer's headquarters. As for the other people in the camp, they all naturally became Devourer's food reserves. How many people are still alive now, he doesn't know. We were attacked by the Devourer army. There were too many Devourers and we couldn't resist at all, so, sigh. I hope all my compatriots are still alive, Baldhead said, squeezing out 2 tears. Come out. Haha. It seems like you are not very good at camp management, right? You can't even protect your own camp, and you still have the nerve to help us manage it? Humph. Thanks, we don't need it, Duanlei sneered. You can't say that. Baldhead was a little anxious, but as soon as he started speaking, he was interrupted by Duanlei's gesture. Stop. This matter. Let's stop discussing it here. We will not give up the base we have worked hard to build to others. It is impossible for you to enter the management of our Hope base. Needless to say, if there is no other, if that's the case, you can leave. Doomsday waved his hand and said coldly that he had lost his patience now and did not want to continue talking to this guy. It was better to let him get to the point as soon as possible so that he could start the next test plan. You are irresponsible to mankind, Baldhead shouted while jumping on his feet. I said, this topic will not be discussed anymore. Is there something wrong with your ears? Doomsday looked at the bald head and said coldly, how are we? You don't need to comment. At least our base is still there, and we have not become a lost dog. You, the bald head continued to say, but was stopped by the people behind him. They also saw that it seemed that there was not much hope for entering the management of the Hope base, so they should follow the original plan. Let them say something and then go to Heilong City. After being stopped, the bald head looked at the people around him and saw that they kept winking at him, so he shook his head and sighed, then looked at Doomsday and said, okay. Since you are unwilling to accept our help, I won't force it. I just remind you that there are many people in your base who have great opinions on you. If things go on like this, your base will be very worrying. Moreover, such a base is not what we want, so since you don't accept the suggestion, then we won't stay here to trouble you. We decided to leave your Hope base. There is no problem with this, right? Of course there is no problem, Doomsday nodded and said, we hope that the base will never force anyone to stay. If you don't want to stay, you can leave. However, now I want to verify what you said before. Hearing Doomsday's words, the bald man was stunned. What are you talking about? Didn't you just say that we hope that many people in the base will be dissatisfied with us? Now that we have talked about it, let's take this opportunity to see how good it is. After Doomsday finished speaking, he picked up the walkie-talkie, shouting to the inside. I am Doomsday. I hope that all members of the base, except for the sentries and guards, will gather in the main square as quickly as possible. After putting down the walkie-talkie, Doomsday looked at the bald head and smiled softly, I'll call everyone over, and then you can ask. If there are still people who are willing to leave with you, I will never stop them. The bald man looked at Doomsday with a silly expression on his face, but he still nodded and agreed. After all, this was a good thing for them. Huan also looked at Doomsday, his brows knitted together tightly. Now he didn't know what Doomsday was up to. Logically speaking, even if Doomsday agreed to let them go, he should handle this matter as soon as possible, because the bigger the commotion, the worse the impact will be on the Hope base. Now instead of letting them leave right away, Doomsday wants to call all the survivors over to see if there are any who want to leave with them. Huan felt something was wrong, but he couldn't think of what was wrong, because no matter from any aspect, Doomsday's actions did no harm to them, and after calling all the people together, they were safer. Because Doomsday and the others couldn't go on a killing spree in front of so many people, that would only make the survivors panic and would definitely not be conducive to their rule. Huan thought about it and couldn't figure out what the situation was. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 490. But now Huan didn't dare to say anything easily. Anyway, the bald head was no longer planning to seize the management rights of the Hope base. Judging from this, it seemed that Doomsday and the others had no intention of continuing to pursue the case, so Huan breathed a sigh of relief. As for what to do next, we can only wait until all the survivors arrive. No matter how many are willing to follow them, they can just take them with them anyway. Their previous bases have been occupied by the Devourers. Those survivors, it is estimated that the situation is also in danger, and even if they are not dead, they do not have the courage to save them. Simply find more people here. In the end of the world, especially after the second drastic change, since humans have basically been strengthened, the worst ones are also strengtheners, and there are even more evolved people everywhere, so there is no such thing as a burden. In this case, the larger the population, the better. To say the least, even if you keep these people in the camp, when the danger really comes, use them as cannon fodder to attract the invading mutant creatures. Or with Devourer's attention, he would at least have more chances to escape. Therefore, although I don't know what Duan Lei and the others are planning now, Hu Yahuan and the others have made no other moves. Anyway, Duan Lei just promised clearly that they can leave the Hope Base and no one will stop them. However, if they knew that when Duan Lei and the others said leaving, they meant leaving far away, and had no intention of letting them stay within the Hope Base for any longer, maybe their expressions would not be so relaxed. Although there is a large population, the residential areas of Hope Base are now relatively concentrated, all concentrated in or around Ganlin County, so not much time was wasted in gathering all the people into the giant square in front of Bishui Garden. After about an hour, the crowd finally gathered. However, under Duan Lei's deliberate arrangement, Hu Yahuan and his group, together with the other survivors of the Hope Base, were divided into two groups and did not gather together. Fortunately, they were all together. There are less than 100,000 people, which is not impressive. It was said that all the survivors were brought over, but there were only less than 2 million people present, because those formal members, such as the survivors who had been there when the Hope Base was first established, and Su Mode, those old people and children who came, these people did not come here. Because what Duan Lei wants to implement is a trial plan, he wants to see if those people are not so committed to the Hope Base, and these people obviously no longer need to withstand this kind of test. Duan Lei still trusts the survivors who participated in the great escape of the 100,000 zombies led by the mutant zombie commander. Moreover, they are all official members and have experienced and witnessed the growth of the Hope Base together. They are definitely not Hu Yahuan and the others. Words can move people. Seeing that the crowd had almost arrived, Duan Lei took the microphone and said to the inside, "Everyone, I called you here today because some of the people we have joined here are a little dissatisfied with the rules of our base." After hearing Duan Lei's words, the survivors present began to whisper to each other and discuss each other. However, Duan Lei did not pay attention to them, but continued, "The Hope Base has been established for almost a year. At least we feel that it seems that the rules are pretty good, so we have no plans to change them. Of course, everyone who comes to the Hope Base should have heard a sentence. If you want to stay in the Hope Base, you must abide by the rules of the Hope Base. If you can't accept it, then you can leave immediately. The Hope Base will not force you to. No one who stays here will take any revenge against you because you want to leave. Now, there are some people who are preparing to leave the Hope Base. They are them. The total number of people is about 80 or 90,000. And this gentleman also said that through his understanding of the Hope Base, he knows that among you, there are many people who are actually not so satisfied with the Hope Base, but they have not chosen to leave because of certain concerns. Now, I will give you a chance. If you think that the Hope Base is not suitable for your survival, you can stand up now and leave with them. On behalf of the Hope Base, I promise that I will let you leave safely, and I will never ask why. Because no matter what the reason is for you to be dissatisfied with the Hope Base, we will not change it in the short term, so we don't need to know. As for the situation of these gentlemen, you don't need me to introduce it. Let this gentleman speak for himself." After speaking, Duan Lei handed the microphone in his hand to the bald head and said with a smile, "If you want to know more, if you want to recruit some people, I can introduce your strength now." He took the microphone blankly, his bald head looking a little unnatural, because he found that the development of this matter seemed to be different from what he imagined. Although they made a grand statement and decided to leave because they felt there was a problem with the management of the Hope Base, the real reason was clear to them, and they also knew that if they left on their own, that would be it. Offending the Hope Base, but if you also bring in the original members of the Hope Base, that would be considered splitting the Hope Base. Even if it is not difficult for Doomsday and others, they should at least handle this matter in a low-key manner. It is in the interest of the Hope Base to let as few people know about this matter as possible. Otherwise, it may cause turmoil in the Hope Base. But what they didn't expect was that Doomsday actually cooperated with them quite well. Not only did he not make things difficult for them, but he also found all the other survivors and promised that they could leave freely and he would never stop them. What's the rhythm? Does the Hope Base feel that there are too many people and want to drive some away? No. According to their understanding, the Hope Base is not short of food and other supplies. On the contrary, there are still a lot of stocks. Not to mention 3 million people, even if there are 6 million people, it is absolutely impossible to eat them out of money. Looking back at Hu Yahuan, he found that Hu Yahuan nodded slightly to him. The bald man put the microphone to his mouth and then shouted, repeating the promise he made to other survivors before. Of course, when he talked about Heilong City this time, he was a little embarrassed. In any case, Heilong City is also the territory of the Hope Base. Even if they didn't use it, Heilong City is still within the scope of the Hope Base. And this time the bald man didn't say anything about letting the Hope Base be the first line of defense and the awakened people like him be the second line of defense. However, the bald man still said something about the bright future. No matter what, population is strength now. Although it is not clear why Doomsday would do such a thing to push people out, the bald man feels that he still has to seize this opportunity. After the bald man finished speaking, he looked at Doomsday, and then handed the microphone in his hand to Doomsday. After Doomsday took the microphone, he said again, "Now, you should all understand the situation. I don't need to say more about the rules of the Hope Base. Everyone present understands it, and this rule will not change in a short time. So, if you feel that the Hope Base is too restrictive, or if any of you are unhappy living here, you can decide to leave now. As I said, we will never make it difficult for you. We can even help you exchange your remaining points for food or supplies so that you can leave with them. Okay. Starting now, I will give you half an hour to think about it. Those who want to leave, just stand among them, and those who stay, just stand where they are. After they leave, I have something to announce. Finally, I remind you once, you'd better think seriously. If you really think that Hope Base is not suitable for you, now is the best opportunity. They also have 2,000 or 3,000 awakened people, which is also a force. And with so many people leaving, your safety can be guaranteed. But there is one thing I need to say in advance. Once you choose to leave, the door of Hope Base will be closed to you forever. After you leave, you will have no chance to choose to return to Hope Base again, so I hope you will consider it carefully. If you want to leave and still have points, you can come to me, find Shen Yishan, exchange your points, and then join your team. Now even if you start, you only have half an hour. You decide where to go. After speaking, Doomsday threw the microphone to Lu Qiang, sat on the ground casually, and looked at the survivors in front of him, without any emotion in his eyes. Doomsday made this decision this time because of Wang Feng's previous words. He knew that his decision might cause Hope Base to lose a lot of people, but Doomsday didn't think it was a pity. With the current system of Hope Base, if we can't keep these people's hearts, then there is no need for them to stay here. Doomsday needs people who have a sense of belonging to Hope Base, not scattered sand who will flee for their lives once they encounter danger. Doomsday has already understood the horror of the Devourer. If Hope Base cannot be united when facing such a powerful enemy, it is likely to face failure. Rather than leaving these people here and causing them to lose their composure when they are in danger, and causing others to panic, it is better to clear them out now. After clearing them out, Hope Base will have fewer people, but its cohesion will definitely increase. This is what Doomsday really wants. Unity and solidarity. This is the hope base that Duanlei wants, and the appearance of Hu Yahuan just gave Duanlei this opportunity.